Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and I hate the title of this thing. I guess someone asked Tolkien to start naming X-Men comics because it has like 3 different names. When the patron pitched it to me, they called it X-Men Infinity, which would be fine, exclusively distributed as part of Marvel's digital comic subscription service, Marvel Unlimited. Hey, did you know that Marvel has a digital subscription service that includes 29,000 back issues, including digital-only releases and new comics released 3 months after printing? Great for newcomers wanting to get into comics? No? That's because Marvel and DC suck at advertising their own damn products. This is not helped by the fact that they reuse the same words over and over in their product lines, making it really confusing to potential new readers what the hell you're talking about. Oh, Infinity? Do you mean the event comic Infinity, the character Infinity, the various comics including Infinity in their names, the tie-ins to things with Infinity in them, the Disney Infinity stuff, or the digital line of free comics as part of Marvel Unlimited? Oh, and Unlimited has its own selection of material that uses that word too. And that's also part of the title issues here, because it's not X-Men Infinity, it's X-Men Unlimited Infinity Comic. Yes, comic is part of its name, it would seem. But let's keep our focus on the redundancy of Unlimited and Infinity right next to each other. Why call it this? Just make it X-Men Infinity since it's part of your Infinity Comics line. Or were you worried you'd be confusing people into thinking it was just the tie-in to the event Infinity, even though it was 8 years before this, and X-Men only had one tie-in to that, and it was an annual issue for the book Wolverine and the X-Men? I guess the point I'm trying to make with all this is buy a thesaurus, Marvel! The Unlimited thing is not really a brand thing in Marvel, wherein a long-running series like Spider-Man or X-Men has another title that tells extra material. An anthology, short stories, standalone stuff. Basically anything that's not a multi-issue storyline potentially spread across multiple books like we've seen before. You know, how comics used to be before they realized they could be incredibly greedy and stretch a story until your wallet screams at you to stop. And there were 2 volumes of X-Men Unlimited before this one. It feels like they only added it here for this because of it being exclusive to Marvel Unlimited, because none of the other Infinity comics had Unlimited in their names. Mind you, they also kept comic at the end of each of their titles, as if they were really, really insecure about people not thinking these were comics, even though, yeah, they are. They're just comics in a different format. Like with the Patreon-sponsored review of an arc of the webcomic Sword Interval, the Infinity comics are designed around the idea of vertical scrolling through the story, as opposed to any panels side by side. And as I said in that review, I'm not really a fan of it because I'm not really into reading comics on mobile devices, but hey, it's actually a method by which a lot of people read comics these days, so kudos for making the effort of material that would appeal to new readers and how they consume comics. Mind you, I question the decision to have the focus be on a bunch of characters nobody has heard of that are still taking place in the middle of all the continuity-heavy print books, but hey, if you're on the digital platform already, they probably assume you'll try to track down those other books using the service. The ones that aren't formatted like the vertical scrolling stuff. I see just as much thought has gone into this as the naming. Anyway, my point is that like when I reviewed the Silent Hill Hunger motion comic, don't expect a lot of variation on the motion when I show you the panels, because a lot of it is just one panel at a time, again and again. 50 panels per issue, and the book was apparently released weekly on the app. The patron wanted this one because it's apparently a very badly done environmental message. And while this might fall under PSA hell, environmentalism is not really what it's about. So let's dig into X-Men Infinity number 5 to 12, aka X-Men Unlimited Infinity comic number 5 to 12, aka X-Men Green, and we'll talk about it.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara.
While these things do have covers, they're just close-ups of characters' faces. Nothing really interesting to talk about. Plus, it's like 8 of them we're going through today, so let's save some time. We open on the living island Krakoa, where mutant kind, in particular the X-Men, are congregating and doing their thing at this point in Marvel history. The series was supposed to look at various mutants living on the island. We see some of them. Pyro, Cypher, Egg, and Nature Girl hanging around a tree. Pyro strumming and singing, "Just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in." Nature Girl compliments him on the song, though Pyro is more amazed by the fact that he's actually playing it on a tree branch. See, Krakoa is not just alive, but it can manipulate its environment, which apparently involves making tree guitars. Just don't ask what's involved with making and playing a woodwind instrument, though. Cypher can communicate with the island. Krakoa says you're most welcome. He enjoys when you play it too. Unfortunately, it just keeps wanting you to play Stairway to Heaven on a loop. Let's see if he likes this one. Pyro quickly learned that Krakoa did not like Disco Duck. Before Pyro can get too far into the song, they spot a sea turtle washing up on the nearby shore. However, Nature Girl can soon sense something is wrong with the animal. It's part of her power set, empathic senses with animal life and nature. The sea turtle is dying, and it didn't want to die alone, so it came here, coughing up part of a plastic grocery bag. "My heart can't take it. I've lost count of how many creatures have died on these shores, poisoned by the humans." Actually, it had nothing to do with the plastic bags. It just heard Pyro playing Maroon 5 songs. "My mutant gift has joined me with the planet. I feel her every joy and pain. But these days, there is far more pain and fever than ever before. I must drop some ibuprofen into a volcano to solve this problem." Nature Girl has grown increasingly pissed off about this, especially as she sees a store label on the plastic bag for Owen's Grocery, a store in Las Vegas. Which I think is actually pretty damn impressive that a bag for a local grocery store in Nevada somehow made its way to the Pacific Ocean where Krakoa is. "I've burned whole busloads of without losing a minute of sleep, but damn if animals don't get to me. Sure, I'm a multiple murderer, but sea turtle!" Yeah, I think that line right there kind of illustrates one of the big problems with this storyline. It doesn't really know what tone it's going for. We'll see more of that in a bit. Nature Girl storms off to finally do something about humanity. "I can't just sit in our paradise while they burn the rest of the planet to ash. That's Pyro's job, damn it!" Also, this is a me problem, but I can't take Nature Girl seriously because every time I look at her, I see the VTuber Haruka Caribou, what with those antlers.
It's a fucking magnifying glass, you idiot!
Krakoa has portals that can take people anywhere they need to go, so Nature Girl heads to Las Vegas and the grocery store. She storms in, goes right to the cashier desk, and gets on the loudspeaker to talk to the owner. Naturally, the guy is pissed at this while she's just ranting about having found the bag and the sea turtle. And of course, the guy is not going to listen to some ranting and raving teenage girl who did this, but she just continues on. And really, she's complaining about him doing this as if he personally stuffed the bag down the turtle's throat. But no, his sarcastic reaction to this news just gets her to grab a pair of scissors and stab him in the throat. "This planet is not your toilet, you stupid barbarian!" "No, but it's apparently your abattoir, Nature Girl." So, as I've pointed out before, I'm not really a big follower of the X-Men, so I don't know a lot of characters and history and stuff. But I did look up Nature Girl, and she's been around since 2014. Done quite a bit. And if I was a fan of hers, I think I'd be kinda pissed that Marvel just arbitrarily made her a cold-blooded murderer because of a grocery bag. She doesn't even really regret it, especially not with what happens after this point. And thus we get our official title for the storyline, X-Men Green. The cops have been called after the murder, and Nature Girl is still inside. They yell out to her to surrender, but when she fails to do so, they decide to send the police dog Jaws in. Like, it's not even like she had a gun. Insert your own remarks about real-world horrible tragedies here and how this is perfectly realistic. I'm just gonna move on and say that in a fictional story, this is idiotic. But they needed to do it because of what happens next. The dog goes in and quickly locates her while she thinks to herself that she's going to be judged harshly back on Krakoa, but wants the first animal she encounters to be the true judge of what she did. And thus the dog finds her, and she uses her affinity with animals and nature to communicate with it. Also, is her antler clipping into the wall? Anyway, yeah, apparently this dog loved sea turtles as well, since it agrees with her and decides to join up with her cause. This is a common problem with stories involving an environmental bend. It's not like human beings are space parasites completely disconnected from nature. The human race is just as much a part of the Earth's biosphere as other animals. We do harm to it, yes, but that doesn't mean we aren't still a part of nature. But no, stories like this, good or bad ones, seem to treat humanity as some kind of foreign invasion into the magical land of all animals and plants living in harmony together, as if that dog wouldn't piss on a lawn and kill some grass. Thus, why doesn't her empathic abilities work with humans? Why does she feel nothing for murdering another living person? And in this story, all animals are on her side. Not a one of them is like, what you did was kind of messed up too, lady. Or even, what the hell do I care about a sea turtle? I'd eat one of those if I found it on the side of the road. The dog gives her a pep talk, I guess, and wants to help her get away. The dog seems to offer to distract the cops, but she says no need for that. She's already called in some help. Outside, a cop is irritated by the quiet. If that girl hurt that dog, so help me, I'll... Okay, couple things. One, kudos for having the cop show empathy for the dog. I wouldn't expect that in this kind of story. Two, if you're so worried about it, why did you send it in alone? But he's got other animals to worry about. Because Nature Girl summoned a frickin' birdemic on the cops! Parrots, and some other friends, but mostly parrots. Actually, from the visuals, I'm mostly seeing seagulls, even a few eagles. Wild birds that flee their perches form large communities in urban cities. Las Vegas is home to all manner of enslaved creatures, and they're all willing to rise up. No coat hanger can stop you, my winged friends. Also, enslaved creatures? God, you've become PETA in mutant form. The dog wants a new name, and Nature Girl gives it as Saoirse, meaning freedom. Meanwhile, Professor Xavier summons Wolverine to bring Nature Girl back to face trial over this whole thing, and oh, yeah, if you hadn't seen it before, this is what Professor Xavier's current outfit is. A big-ass helmet with an X on it and a black bodysuit.
There. Sure glad I don't look stupid in this.
This leads us into issue 6, where Wolverine is tracking Nature Girl down. I'm the best at what I do, but what I do isn't always so nice. I've been eating this dirt all day and still nothing. Tracking her scent, his hope is to take her while she's asleep and bring her back to Krakoa quickly and quietly, but the dog smells his approach and warns her. He offers to talk to her first, but she's beyond reason. I can't block it out anymore, Logan. It was like I was lying to myself about this planet. It's dying. I can feel it. I need to stop it. Stop them. Look, even if you agreed with her that nature is the same thing as the planet, spoilers, we're not going to get a big storyline about the Earth dying off because of pollution, so in-universe, she's just wrong, and this is just super reductive for character motivation. And it's another example of how poorly thought out this Infinity Comics stuff is. Whether it's a new reader or one interested in checking out a free X-Men story for the first time, this is not a compelling narrative. Teenage girl with antlers takes on Wolverine because of generic environmentalism statements is not something that's going to get people to grab up new comics unless it's just so damn well executed. And this is not. The characterization is weak and the narrative is frustrating. So I'm not returning to Krakoa. Not until I've changed the humans. Admittedly, I'm going to need to buy a lot more scissors. Wolverine points out the entire flaw with her argument in one, so kudos there. If it was that easy to change humanity, they would have done it already long before she did. Wolverine also wonders what she's gonna do to fight him, like use the dog against him, but she planned ahead for this encounter. They slept in the cave of a bear who was willing to defend them. Never told Lynn this, but her scent's more beast than mutant. Another sign that I think this is probably just character assassination for her, because why include that information unless you're trying to dehumanize her? Wolverine accidentally left the keys in the motorcycle, so she's able to escape on it while he fights the bear. This is also a bit of a downside to the format, since it doesn't really give room for an interesting fight scene of Wolverine versus a friggin' bear. Anyway, our main character in this story, who loves nature and the serenity of the natural world, makes her escape on a loud gasoline-using motorcycle. Hell, we even get a shot of the exhaust. I don't know if this was deliberately trying to show her hypocrisy or just unintentionally so. Admittedly, I'm being a little facetious with that statement. The majority of pollution produced on the planet is not by individuals using cars or motorcycles. It's massive corporations and industrial companies doing it. Her driving a motorcycle isn't destroying the world. However, it does feel like that's the case with, again, the overly simplistic mindset put forth in this comic. After all, what's the difference between her using the motorcycle versus a grocery store owner who uses plastic bags then? It's another tonal problem with the comic, because it doesn't seem to know if we're supposed to be on Nature Girl's side or not, especially with how the story ends. And she never targets the head honchos of polluting companies, the ones probably most responsible for said pollution. She ends up just harming people who have no power to stop it. Wolverine does force the bear to retreat, but he needs to take a rest since his guts are hanging out of him, and the healing factor needs to do its thing. Nature Girl, meanwhile, tells Saoirse she needs to do something big and dramatic to get humans to care about the environment. First, though, she takes a quick trip back to Krakoa to pick up some supplies. Once there, she meets with another mutant child, Curse, who thinks that what Nature Girl did was cool and wants to join up. Nature Girl can sense a darkness in her, but she's just like, okay. This leads us to issue 7. Nature Girl heads to the Cyanidine Oil Company, which is currently pumping in the Dakotas. One of the workers building a pipeline gets a rock thrown at him by some protesters who have shown up. We respectfully ask you to stop, or would you like another respect rock? You'd think this place would have a fence or something. And again with the weird tone and framing. The oil workers decide to attack the protesters because, as the narration says, there aren't journalists around, which seems to be saying these people are awful and horrible. But I remind you that they didn't even notice the protesters until one threw a rock at them. Maybe the idea was, oh, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a tiny pebble to get their attention. But that sure as hell doesn't look like one. It hit a guy's head and it clearly hurt him. So what the hell are we supposed to be taking away from this? In any case, Nature Girl and Curse show up, the latter using her power to make a worker trip, fall, and presumably die. And yeah, that's another murder on the count, and I don't even know if the comic wants to be on the side of it, X-Men Green, as Nature Girl calls it. Hi, my name is Curse, and I'm kind of the hype girl for my friend Nature Girl. And that's why I challenge you oil workers to fight her at WrestleMania. Since the workers won't retreat, Nature Girl summons up nature's deadliest weapon to fight them. Bees, my god. The protesters are allowed to leave, though they seem a bit freaked out by this occurrence. Then again, maybe they're just confused because one guy is holding up a sign with the peace symbol on it, even though this is protesting an oil pipeline, not war. One of the workers tries to attack Nature Girl before she can head to the refinery, but she just swings her head, and apparently her antler is powerful enough to slice his throat. Oh, and Nature Girl expresses more sadness over a bee dying than the guy she just coldly murdered with her antlers.
Taka, I know you're dumb. So let's just go through this slowly, okay?
All right.
What is on my head?
You're thinking Arby's.
In fact, she admits that she used to feel pain for so many years with the damage to the environment, but now that she's fighting back against the infection, she feels alive! Let this be a lesson to those who suffer from chronic, unexplained pain. Just murder people! Curse is still only too happy to do all this, not caring about human life, though at least Nature Girl says that not all humans are bad. But for Curse, this is a release. Her abilities involve actual curses that she needs to unleash, or else they turn in on her. Nature Girl also bought some more time to keep Wolverine off her trail, she knows he won't ever stop hunting her, by giving some discarded clothing to some wolves to send her scent in another direction. But that'll only help for so long. We move on to issue 8, where Nature Girl has a nightmare about returning to Krakoa, the Council of Important Mutants, and the 2 people she directly killed, all judging her for what she did, and everyone rejecting her before throwing her into some hole in the ground.
Wow. What a hole.
Lest you think this is a sign of her feeling guilt about what she's done. Nope! She wakes up with her hair having fallen out and replaced with just blackness. The effect makes her look like Hela in Thor Ragnarok, and does the extra duty of removing more human features so we can, again, dehumanize her a bit as the villain. Except again, with so much of the story focused around her and showing humanity being assholes, it still seems like she's supposed to be the one we're rooting for, so what the hell? We cut over to the mutant Sauron, whom, if you're not familiar with, he's the guy from that one mimetic panel about not wanting to cure cancer, but wanting to make people into dinosaurs. And yeah, that is his deal. He's a dinosaur man who can fly, is a geneticist, and also has psychic powers. Honestly, when you mention all that at once, it kind of makes him rival Batman for all his useful attributes. Anyway, he returns to his cave laboratory to discover the oil pipeline that was being constructed has leaked into the lab and destroyed a lot of his work. Poison! Shale oil runoff! Wait, is there oil in this mountain? I'm rich! He swears vengeance, and we cut to the refinery, where Curse arrives to deal with the guards. They have been warned of the approach of X-Men Green. However, while the guards are dealt with, the company took the opportunity to hire some help to defend the refinery. The villainess Black Mamba. Her powers are twofold, and honestly probably shouldn't be with a character whose aesthetic is around snakes. She has a limited telepathic ability that lets her project images of loved ones into her target's brain, which will put them in a trance-like state, and in turn, she uses an extra-dimensional energy called the Dark Force to strangle and crush them once they're in that state. Sure, I get the abstract metaphor with a snake, except Black Mamba snakes don't actually hold on to their prey when they're paralyzing them, so why? Anyway, on to issue 9, where she begins fighting the two. She puts Curse into a hypnotic state where she's happily watching the Earth be turned into hell. Black Mamba believes the two were hired to do this by a rival company, not really getting the whole environmental terrorism thing. The dog pulls Curse out of the vision, allowing her to rejoin the fight. In the struggle, Black Mamba uses her Dark Force powers on Nature Girl and the guard that was holding on to her. No, it can't be! I killed you! My goldfish is back for revenge! For Nature Girl, she sees the shop worker she killed berating her for killing him. However, she's still not feeling guilty even if she's entranced by the vision. I'm not sorry you're gone. You were just one of the problems infecting the planet. I would kill you again. Why does this friggin' story spend more time with the remorseless murderer than any of the good guys? It's just a baffling creative decision unless the makers of the comic actually are on her side, but I don't know how or why they could be when there's been plenty of the story that also framed her actions as wrong. And if they do agree with her and think she's in the right for doing this, then go to hell! They announced a print version of this story in 2 issues, and giving us yet another title of this thing, X-Men Unlimited, X-Men Green, and the solicitation described it as a perfect entry point into the current world of mutant kind, offering an action-packed Wolverine adventure, as well as a transformative journey for the fan-favorite young X-Man, Nature Girl. Yeah, it's been really action-packed with Wolverine, kind of fighting a bear for a few panels, and the transformation of Nature Girl into full-on supervillain. Oh, and your entry point is a bizarre status quo for mutant kind that is not explained for the audience. This was originally released last year. Who thought this was all a good idea? Who was this for? Nature Girl fights back against the Dark Force energy, including with an admittedly gorgeous looking but kinda goofy shot of the friggin' turtle yelling out, "Avenge me!" while holding the damn plastic bag in its mouth. Nature Girl recovers, but more guards have arrived and are ready to shoot them if they don't surrender. You're gonna surrender, or you're gonna be treated like an adult. And that means these guys are gonna dig 3 holes. Nice of her to say the dog gets its own grave too. However, Sauron shows up to bring us into issue 10. Back on Krakoa, Emma Frost gets hit with a wrongful death lawsuit over what happened at the oil pipeline, which seems like a weird thing to sue them over when there's no evidence that she was sanctioned or the like. But whatever, the Council of Important Mutants decides to finally take a more active role in stopping the rampage, rather than the more discreet method they had hoped with Wolverine. Not because of the lawsuit, of course, but because of the loss of life. Xavier uses his mind control powers to reach out to Nature Girl to try to get her to return, but it doesn't affect Curse. Although I don't know how much it affects Nature Girl either, since it's not like she starts moving away, she just stands in place repeating what Xavier says to her. Sauron decides to ignore all this. And just to add on to the amusing aspects of Sauron in this, he's a dinosaur geneticist man with psychic powers, and as you can see, he's packing heat! The guards try to make fun of him since he can't fit the gun in his hands, but of course he can just telekinetically lift it up to aim at them. Black Mamba and Sauron get into a fight while Curse argues with Xavier, using her own powers to send the telepathic signal back at him and give him a Charlie horse for good measure. Oh, and I guess during this time Magneto died fighting the Balrog and became Magneto the White or something, as you can see. Emma, tell Logan I expect those girls back to face justice by sundown. Hey, here's an idea. This is no longer something they can handle quietly. Send a full team of X-Men after them! More rather lame fighting continues as Wolverine finally catches up to bring us into issue 11. He grabs the two of them, Nature Girl complaining about this. The planet doesn't have a resurrection protocol, Logan. So while Googling stuff about the comic, I ended up seeing other fans' angry reactions to it, and someone cited this line in particular because Actually, it does. Like, there's a bunch of Marvel lore connected to the Earth and how indeed nature and the planet can survive and come back to life, even if it takes millions of years. And it wouldn't even take that long. She's completely full of it right here. Somehow, a stray bullet bounces off of Wolverine's mask. What is his mask made out of adamantium too? And that gives the two a chance to get away. Sauron and Black Mamba get into a staring contest of their own powers against each other, where they deliver these lines. "Fear not, Sauron is a sapiosexual." Gasp, so am I.
And oh my god, stop killing me when you have nerdy sex!
Even putting aside that those lines come right the hell out of nowhere, is this a comedy now? Are we just forgetting about the murder and environmentalism and everything? Hell, even Nature Girl and Curse are confused about what the hell is going on with them. Dunno how you're connected to this, Sauron. He's not. He's just in the story for some reason, despite not needing to be. While Wolverine is distracted by all that, Nature Girl runs into the refinery and starts messing stuff up, causing the place to blow up and no doubt creating a massive environmental disaster because she's an idiot. Wolverine knocks out Curse before he can use his powers on him again. Yeah, he was using them throughout the fight. Nature Girl helps Sauron get away, who tells her that she can count him as a friend and where to find him in the future. Nature Girl tells Wolverine that this would be a good death, but he rightfully points out there's been enough death and punches the screen? What? I guess this is supposed to be like him punching the phone or tablet screen, but like, why? Why are we suddenly breaking the fourth wall? And how the hell does that work when this got printed on paper? Did they just take out the screen shatter effect so it's suddenly just a big fist? Or did they just make it black to indicate he knocked her out? Hell, this doesn't even work because it's supposed to be scrolling, not moving one panel at a time. Whatever, this brings us to our final issue. The two are brought to the Krakoa Council. Nature Girl, you and Curse stand accused of killing a man. Do you have anything to say? I do. I'm pretty sure she killed more than just one. Nature Girl argues that they already kill people with their inaction for not preserving Earth, but Magneto is just like, whatever, we're terraforming Mars, so who gives a crap about Earth? Oh my god, I didn't want to make this comparison, but it really is just like Power Rangers Wild Force criminy. She points out that her power is tied into Earth's biosphere, and she can't really feel the same way about Mars or anywhere else. She has nothing else to say in her defense and demands the council just vote on what to do with her already. The council votes that she's guilty, but it seems Krakoa, being alive as well, objects to the decision. Emma points out that they need to do something or else it will invite humanity to attack the island, which will be worse for it. Krakoa agrees that the two must be put in the pit, which I guess is like a living jail cell on the little island nation. The two are put in there, dragged down into it. I regret lashing out in Las Vegas, but that is where my remorse ends. Screw that one guy who I killed at the pipeline, even though I was the one who was attacking them first with bees. You taught me to stand up and fight for what I know is right, and my cause is right. My anger is just. You murdered a bunch of people and caused more harm to the environment and to relations with the rest of the world. With your affinity with all those animals, you could have done all of this safely without a single spilled drop of blood, especially since you were able to summon a frickin' army of birds from a distance. Your cause is nonsense and you're full of crap. However, as pointed out, Krakoa objected to this, so instead of the two being suspended in the darkness, they're instead sent to a cave along with the dog and Cypher, who explains that Krakoa is letting the two of them go. He says that their hearts are in the right place, but they went about it like idiots, so if they're gonna continue their crusade, don't be morons about it. Krakoa even gives her a friggin' magic staff of nature or whatever for the job. And so our comic ends with Pyro driving a boat to help them make their escape. The comic promising that X-Men Green will return. And God, I wish they didn't, because these comics suck. The ending is vindicating their actions, that they should face no real punishment for what they did. Who gives a crap if they can't live on Krakoa? It's probably just gonna get nuked in whatever next X-Men event comes along that slaughters the mutant population again. Even putting aside the craptastic morals the story espouses, it's just not paced very well. I read it all in one sitting, but when this came out, 1 week at a time, This story took 2 months to complete, and I assume it felt like an absolute slog the whole way through. Oh, sure, 2 months is natural for 2 issues worth of comic, but it would technically only be a single month between issues, and at least you'd have a lot more at once. This format does not help this story, where it feels like we're watching Nature Girl and Curse travel across the country in real time. There are maybe a few shots where they still get across size and scale despite being condensed to a format friendly for mobile users, but this is no good for fight scenes, and a lot of the time the scrolling just means that backgrounds are often sacrificed to a gradient over time instead of more detailed material. And I have it here as individual panels, so oftentimes word balloons are cut in half between 2 panels. I pasted them back together for this review, but yeah, the big thing is the character assassination of Nature Girl. And yet I'm pretty sure, especially given the solicitations and whatnot, that the creators expected us to be on her side, that we should be perfectly happy with her slaughtering people and blowing up oil refineries. Screw this book, and screw its unnecessarily overcomplicated naming. I mean, what am I supposed to call this thing?
Well, it's green.
On the subject of pacing issues, next time, another Patreon-sponsored review, and probably a really long one, because it's time for Maximum Carnage.
Sitting on my couch reviewing comics, the worst words that you will ever see. It's sad that comic books are for geeks, but they're not. They're for everybody. If you doubt that I am a man, I am a man.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!